Oh my god, the FNAF movie trailer dropped and there is so much to talk about. Although I won't be playing any footage, only screenshots. Universal has been being pretty trigger happy with copyright claims, so I'm going to do my best to avoid getting claimed. I need monetization on this video, I've got a family to feed. But anyway, slices, put on your aprons, and let's dissect us a trailer. Well, there's no better place to start than the start, and right away, I think it's pretty safe to assume that the majority of the movie does not take place while this location, the movie version of FNAF 1, is open. I think the time placement of this movie is much long after this restaurant has closed, and that Mike's security job is moreover to watch an abandoned building than actually be a Fazbear security guard. And there's a few reasons behind this. Most obviously, the sign outside is collapsed, says closed, and the inside is a total mess, especially when you compare the inside to that versus what we see on the tapes. I wonder if I can write a message back home. Let's give it a shot. And that's why... Oh. Well, that's not good. I know. This should help. Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. If you're on the internet, and I know you are because you're watching me right now, just like I'm watching you right now, don't turn around, then you'd really be better off with a VPN. And Surfshark is giving away 3 months for free if you purchase their 24-month plan. But what can Surfshark do for you? Well, to me, one of the best features is making it look like your device is connecting from anywhere. If you want to watch a show that's on Netflix but not in your country, then Surfshark VPN can just make it look like your device is connecting from France, and suddenly, that show's unlocked again. Another incredibly important and pertinent thing that Surfshark can do for you is protect your data. Public Wi-Fi is two things. One, incredibly helpful, and two, incredibly insecure. Trying to access personal information on a public Wi-Fi network is like trying to record in your own home office, apparently. It's not very safe. But with Surfshark VPN, you can be safe. All you have to do is make sure that Surfshark is turned on, connect it, and suddenly, your data is encrypted and safe. If all of this and more sounds good to you, which it really should, go ahead and scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description with code RIGHTHOST to get 3 months of Surfshark VPN completely free with the purchase of a 24-month package. And for a VPN solution on all devices with 24/7 support and a 30-day money-back guarantee, you really ought to jump on this opportunity. Thanks again to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. I can't believe it. He used Surfshark VPN to block me out of the office. That's new. I'll have to think of something else. Speaking of those training tapes, did you catch the beginning of the trailer with that static cut? I think that's a nod to VHS tapes and how they typically start. But on that note, let's talk about the training tapes. Right away, I don't think they're a replacement for Phone Guy. He's such an integral part to FNAF 1, and it would be honestly weird to have an entire movie about FNAF without him. We'll get into what I think about Phone Guy in a moment, but I still want to focus on these tapes. As far as information and lore goes, these tapes are huge. I think these tapes can give us the date they were set in, and more than that, the date of potential flashbacks. Why do I think there would be flashbacks? Casting. I went fully into this in my video about a month or so ago, but essentially, the fact that Scott said on record that he wants the protagonist of the movie to have some connection to Freddy's, and that Mike Schmidt is the very same fake name that it's theorized that Michael Afton uses within the games, I strongly suspect that everyone's favorite smoke show baby girl Josh Hutcherson is going to be playing Michael Afton as Mike Schmidt. That being said, we have 3 castings that are very important and complicate this. Matthew Lillard as William Afton, but then Jessica Blackmore and Garrett Hines as Mike's mom and Mike's dad. So does this disprove the Afton theory? I don't think so. I think Blackmore and Hines are going to be playing Mike's parents in the 80s, either during flashbacks or in these tapes. The ages of these actors line up perfectly for this. And since Abby, Mike's sister, is stated to have grown up without her parents in a previous casting call, these two can't be Mike's current parents, they're not in the picture. So if there's named actors and castings for past parents, I think that these tapes and possibly flashbacks are going to be very important to this movie. But again, these tapes are the key to figuring out the date in which these flashbacks and tapes take place. At first, the tapes just seem like a nice framing device. They show us the pizzeria, some kids having a good time, arcade cabinets, and even a showtime. But wait a second, arcade cabinets. This is a movie now, and those are real props. Arcade cabinets have real-life release dates. If we can find the youngest release dates of these cabinets, we can figure out when the latest these tapes were recorded could be. So, first and most easily, Super Kicks Pro. Super Kicks Pro is a redesign of an older Super Chex Pro, the hockey version of foosball. They redesigned it to be soccer, and we see that machine not only being played on in the tapes, but a clear shot of it with its logo in the modern day with presumably Vanessa? We'll get into it. Now, I couldn't find a solid date on when Super Kicks Pro itself was created, but a listing from last year for the actual machine says that it's been around for 35 years. So we're looking at about 1980s, possibly 1987, which is a very important date, but I couldn't nail down that date, so don't hold too strongly to it. The next most obvious machine is this Centipede machine. We don't see the name or logo, but I mean, look at it. That's the Centipede art. Being a very popular game, this release date was way easier to find. The arcade cabinet came out in 1980, so 1987 is still our most recent date possible for these tapes. Those machines are the only real clear two shots that I could find, but I wanted some more data. The only other non-blurry shot of an arcade machine is this one in the same shot we got Centipede. It took a bit of digging because all we really had to go on was a red shooting pistol and some kind of label, but eventually I did find that it looks very similar, if not identical, to the Area 51 arcade machine. Perfect. Now all we have to do is compare the date it came out with the dates we have. And Area 51 came out in 1995. Oh. Mark didn't like that one. Oh my god. I gotta find my lint roller stat. By the way, guys, if you wanted to know why there was no streams this week, he's here. 1995? That's weird. That feels really late in the timeline for Freddy's, especially if Freddy's to be open. Okay, two options here. Either the timeline is completely separate from the games and this is us telling that, or, and this is very possible, the arcade cabinets might not be one-to-one exact. I could totally see them just building the set and telling a guy to say, hey, go get 80s arcade cabinets. Like, that's fair. But now we're back to square one. All these tapes show us anymore are arcade cabinets, kids having a birthday party, and the showtime, with Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica playing some original song I've never heard of. What? That's not an original song. Huh. So apparently that's not an original song. It's the song Talking in Your Sleep by the Romantics. Okay, this feels good. Songs require sourcing, licensing. Especially for trailers, whatever song is being played was put there specifically and on purpose. If they're using it, it has to be intentional. And lo and behold, when did that song come out? 1983. The suspected year of the bite that killed the crying child. Something like that, like the old casting call for Mike Schmidt stated, would riddle him with guilt over a tragedy in his past. This feels specific and genuine. Not only are we getting flashbacks and tapes from the 80s, but this movie might actually show us in some way more information about the bite of 83. This does raise the question though, does that mean the bite of 83 is going to take place in a Freddy's location, not Fredbear's Family Diner? I think that's likely. After all, the FNAF 1 location is Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, whereas the movie is set to take place in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. So it seems like, similar to the novel trilogy, the movies are going to be their own continuity with a lot of overlap in the lore. Which is fine by me. We still learned a lot about the game's timeline from the information in the books, and I assume the movie will do the same. Actually, if what we speculated so far is true, the biggest lore drop that we might get from the movie is a confirmation of a long speculated theory that I believe in. The Foxy Bro in the FNAF 4 minigames is Michael Afton, the older brother to the crying child. This has been pretty heavily speculated, but we still have no confirmations. This movie could be trying to do that for us. It might even confirm that the Fredbears talking to him are William Afton. And if so, whatever the name of that kid in the flashbacks is, I'm going to be using it for the crying child moving forward. So Evan, you're on thin ice. Okay, that's huge, but what else is going on here? Well, what about Phone Guy? Just like FNAF 1, I have a feeling he's going to be dead on arrival, if this shot is anything to go by. Speaking of odd shots, we do get a very clear image of William Afton himself, notably with no purple in the shot at all. In fact, he's dressed fully in yellow. Now, I've seen some people speculate that this is because this is William before the missing child incident, so they're using color language to show that he's a creep, he just hasn't done anything wrong yet. But I'm not so sure. I have a feeling that this shot is long after the missing child incident, if not current day. What times do we see William Afton associated with yellow? The only definitive time is with the Freddy Maze minigame Secret, which shows him in the Spring Bonnie suit luring Susie away. I think that's the color theory they're going to use with William in this movie. Purple and yellow are opposites on the spectrum. Purple could be used in this movie when William is actively doing things. Maybe we see him right after the deed of the missing child incident or guiding the robots to attack Mike, Abby, and Vanessa. But when he's in yellow, he's relaxed. He's insidious. He's trying to draw you in. He's making a small business proposition or leading you into a back room. Finally, we have to address this. There are a lot of possibilities here. And mind you, not only do we get this shot in the trailer, but we then got an HD picture of a different angle thanks to Universal. The first interpretation of this I saw popping up online was that this is the movie's version of a Springlock suit. Honestly, I could see that 100%, but I'm not convinced. After all, we don't actually see anything that resembles a Springlock, it's just a bunch of cogs. Again, could be, I'm not sure though. I've also seen mention, I think by MR Springs on Twitter first, I'm not sure, that it could just be a murder machine made by William. He's known for just making robots that do murders, so this could just be the latest devilish doohickey that he's made. Just a contraption, just a device, go put him in the device. But for me personally, I have two theories. One is already disproven, but I want to go into it because I think it's fun to think about. So let's just start with the one that's wrong, and then we can move on to the right one. Mind you, I wrote this before we had this angle, which disproves everything I'm about to say. To be fair, I didn't really believe in what I'm about to say either. Bake with me for a second. Do we have any kind of connection at all in this entire franchise of an animatronic with saw blades coming out of their face? One instance, the graphic novels, Circus Baby. Specifically from the Fourth Closet. How could Circus Baby be in this movie? Well, look to Security Breach and think about one of the prevailing theories explaining what Vanny is, a robotic recreation of Elizabeth. And what would a robotic recreation of Elizabeth be, essentially? So this already deconfirmed theory would be that this scene is actually showing Vanessa trying to kill Mike Schmidt with her weird robot face. But then right after I wrote this, we got this image. So even though that was already probably wrong, it's definitely wrong. But here's a probably more accurate theory that's way simpler. In the trailer, we get these two different shots of Mike Schmidt in the woods, one being surrounded by presumably the ghost kids. After all, we have 5 children, one of them definitely linked with Bonnie, Freddy, and Chica, so we can assume the other two are Foxy and Golden Freddy, which also, Golden Freddy alert? Is that Cassidy? Or is that the crying child? Anyway, the other shot we get of Mike Schmidt in these woods is waking up on the ground in a cold sweat. Here's the big idea I'm having. This sequence is a dream, or more rather, a nightmare. I mean, he wakes up on the ground in the middle of the woods. Either Josh Hutcherson is the missing 10th Alaskan bush person, or he fell asleep on the job and woke up in this nightmare. So if that's the case, the same logic could be applied to this weird murder machine. I could very easily see a scene where Mike Schmidt falls asleep in the chair at work and wakes up in this weird death trap and has to navigate the nightmare until he wakes up. After all, nightmares are a huge part of FNAF, so I really don't doubt this. I will say, I've seen one more theory on Twitter that could also be very true. This is the movie's version of how William stuffs his victims into the animatronic suits. The main case for this, we see Mike Schmidt wearing this outfit when he first arrives. Open jacket, white shirt. We also see the previous night guard, presumably our phone guy, wearing a tie and button shirt. What's the one shirt we get of somebody being strapped into this chair? Tie and button shirt. So really there's 3 options here. Either I'm right and it's a dream sequence and he's just in a more traditional security outfit for that dream. 2, over the course of the movie, he wears more and more professional clothing. Or 3, it's a real machine used by William to stuff people into suits, and it was previously used on the last security guard. And that's what we're seeing, it being used on him and Mike Schmidt. I do have one issue with that. If that's how the other security guard dies, why do we get this shot of presumably him dying? I don't know, it's weird. Everything else about this trailer is really me just gushing, so let me get that out of my system. Oh my god, the animatronics look so good. Like, they're simultaneously one-to-one completely accurate with the games, but also like a realistic version of them, and you can see the fur on them. They look so fuzzy, and you know they stink and they're gross, and it's perfect. And the eyes are great. I don't get why people don't like the red eyes. I love the red eyes. It reminds me of that old campy horror, which is really what FNAF 1 is. FNAF is campy horror, no matter what you want to try to spin it. Lillard already looks like such a good William. He makes my skin crawl in the best way in that trailer. The final Toreador march gave me the chills. It was so good. Obviously, Josh Hutcherson is going to kill it, and the internet already is remembering how attractive Josh Hutcherson is. But if you want my full plot prediction for the movie, you'll have to go to this video where I go into that. In the meantime, what do you guys think of the trailer and the posters, which I didn't even get time to talk about? Because I tell you what, I cannot shut up about this. Even my friends who do not like FNAF, I keep talking about this to them because it's so cool. But anyway, a huge shout out to the best patrons, the Toasted Slices, Emberisk, Charlie Bean, Lovey Puppy, Stormachow, Just BKZ, Lolo Fembo, The Viper 26, Lehan, James Reiner, Emily De La Sierra, Snowblossom, Comrade Nika, Raven Eris, Glamrock Bonnie Isn't a Ghani, Bucky Ray, Mystic Angel, Untrusted Life, MD Switchy, Flip, Loose, Hyperdroid, Emmy Layton, Sharpwire, Kitty Demon Overkill YT, Runosuke Akutagawa, Angermations, Nayubi, Cursed Gality, OtterPops456, Duskineth, Icy G, Silly Goose Central, Mac Dave, Irfan, Sumi, Moose, Kiwi Dylan, Sharktooth, Inkline Game Studio, Big Fart, Sky Fonset, Daylove Bunny, Alex P, Mercy, Altname 7, FNAF Boys, Wesley Harden, Simp Moodles, Kylie Del Pazzi, Chickpea, Funtime, Thomas Harris, A Human, Lavender, Chance Marie, Balin42, Supermoosh, Blues Weird Clues, Dedicated, Fizzles, Danny Menzies, Carno Team, Mimi, Invader Jules, Jeffrey Tilbury, Obnoxious, Rowan Heath, and Queen Coda. And until next time, as always, stay toasty, Slices.